Great, really? Gives $2.
G'day, Tēnā koutou, nū mai, haere mai, Anzac here, also known as Angelite85. So, just wanted to give an update on my experience with the new Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus mobile phone after switching from the iPhones. So far my experience with the changes has been very smooth, still getting used to the way that Samsung's UI for Android works, but other than that I have had no issues. Only one app I kind of used a lot on my iPhone isn't available for Android, but all I have to do is just hut one out. Display quality has blown me away. It just looks so much sharper and clearer, less washed out compared to the iPhones. The rear camera at this stage I haven't actually given a test of just yet, but when I get the chance to, or remember to do a shoot testing it out in different lighting conditions and including a video test as well, I will show the examples when I do another update after living with the phone for a month, and will be the last time I do that with this phone. So let's get into the things that have absolutely have me smitten with this phone. First up was the transfer of information from my iPhone 6 Plus to the new phone. This I do not think could have gone any bloody smoother and been any less painless. The thing that impressed me the most was how much information was transferred, which was everything. Not just contacts, and text messages and photos, block number list, everything. Even the thing that is my big bugbear, my pet peeve with the iPhones. I always had to redo my playlist and music library on the phone. Always had to put them back on. Even if they were there on, you know, I hadn't actually done a clean install in the time and changed anything or anything like that. So the old phone gets backed up to the computer using iTunes, and iTunes, nothing's changed, all my music's where it was, the playlists are the same thing in the time that I've had the phone, and I've put the new phone in, and everything's gone back on bar the music and the playlist. I've had to manually put them on, and it's been always a fucking nuisance for me. I don't understand it. I would have expected, oh yeah, bang bang, in out, not a problem. You know, I mean, when you back up an iPhone, it remembers to take any of the, you know, take any updates that were done on the phone with the apps and put them onto the computer so that the apps are up to date on the computer. But you know, but anyway, with the Samsung, it took all the music by the ones I had purchased through iTunes. But not only did it take the music, it took the playlist as well. So I, you know, as I mentioned, so I didn't have to normally do it manually from my PC like I've had to do ever since my iPhone 3G to the iPhone 4. Now, security on this thing is nuts. Facial, fingerprint, iris scanner, standard pin or pattern unlock. The facial recognition works well and works fast. The fingerprint scanner works well. The iris scanner I have been unable to set up, but others have reported something like 60% success rate with it, so at least I am not the only one having issues. And I'm not overly that concerned with the iris thing. I'm happy with the security features that are there now. But the gripe I have with the fingerprint scanner, however, is that even though on the back of the phone, and easy to get to for me as I hold the phone in my left hand, normally its proximity to the camera lens is annoying as you can easily miss the scanner and touch the lens. I think Samsung maybe should have planned this better, maybe raised the edge of the camera lens so that it was more distinct and less likely to touch the lens when, you know, thinking you're hitting the scanner, or position the camera, which would be the better way, into an upper corner of the phone away from the scanner. Again, something that to me, at least a minor annoyance, as I barely use the cameras and phones anyway. If I'm going anywhere to shoot, I have a proper frigging camera with me. Birthdays, theme parks, vlog shoot, etc. Real camera over using phones, even if it's one of the two highest rated mobile phone cameras in the world at the moment, being the iPhone 7 Plus and the Google Pixel. I've always found Android to be nowhere near as smooth in operation compared to iOS or Windows Mobile, but when I got my hands on a Samsung S7 and had to play with the Google Pixel, I was impressed. Finally, the power requirements to drive Android and the maturation of Android itself had me had, to me, finally come. Android is so responsive, so smooth to operate, the S8 Plus. It has been a joy to use this last week. Apps launch quickly and respond well without issue. Everything works well so far. I've yet to run into any issues with the system. Now, currently my only gripe is battery life, but then again, I do have the thing running in its most power-hungry performance mode. If I drop it to max power savings, like right now, which at the time of doing this script, yes, it's scripted, people, except for that part, and that part, and that part right there, yep. It was at 71% when I did it, when I was doing the script for this, which gave an estimated 12 hours battery life. If I put it into its maximum battery life saving mode at this point, or at the point that I did this thing, because we're talking about maybe an hour or two after I've actually finished typing the script up, but anyway, it would push it to 37 hours. So at 71%, 12 hours to 37 hours. If I go to maximum thing, I can also customize that so that I can take a minimal performance hit, but I would obviously sacrifice some battery life in doing so. Now, as you may also be aware, I got with my pre-order of my phone the new Gear VR with motion controller, which, man, if you want to experience VR and get a feel for it, this is the way to do it. The phone runs the VR apps pretty well. You can even surf the web, the Samsung browser, or use the baked-in one through Oculus app. Watch Netflix on a huge virtual screen. I mean, like, it's massive. It's like it's a massive 2-foot fucking TV in front of you. It's like huge. Now, a lot of people will be aware of, you know, most of the time phones are no good for VR because of screen door effect. The screen door effect on this is there, but nowhere near as bad as I've seen when I use my Shoncon VR headset with my iPhone, or when I use the Oculus DK2 that one time. But this is helped by the fact that the S8 Plus is a Quad HD display versus the Full HD display of the iPhone 6 Plus. For the most part, in the game Drop Dead, which is a first-person zombie shooter, I don't notice the screen door effect anywhere near as much as, say, watching YouTube or Netflix. I never used the Gear headset prior to the motion controller, but I can imagine that using the controls on the side of the headset would have been annoying and made the experience less enjoyable. But with the controller, with the motion controller, it is much easier for navigation of the menus and the like, because I did briefly use the side panel, I have to say that. You know, that controller just makes a world of difference in being in the interfacing of the menus and everything when you're in the VR headset. I have already tried briefly RiffCat, so I've side-loaded RiffCat, or used another app to allow RiffCat to function, and I used it already to stream a Steam VR PC game, or Steam VR compatible PC game, to the phone, and it worked. Didn't run it long enough to say if it works well, but still was impressed with what I had actually seen nonetheless. The only thing I could see making the system better is a second controller and the ability for it to track horizontal side-to-side and front-to-back motions and vertical movement, so the up and down side of things. So you could bring the controller right in front of you and move it across you and up and down and forward and back in front of you, because that's one of the things that I feel is sorely missing in this. If I want to be able to stick my hand out in front of me and actually have that translate in the game, it kind of feels kind of weird to, you can see the controller in the game and it's like, yep, I can see that. But if I move it forward and back, it doesn't translate in the game. If I move it, from side to side, it doesn't it doesn't track, and it kind of takes you out of that immersion fairly quickly, and it breaks it. Aside, it does have a fairly decent pitch, yaw, and roll track, so you can, roll the controller, it translates in, and tilt it up and tilt it forward and back, and it tilts, the yaw, rolls, it pitches pretty, it tracks that really well. The controller, however, does suffer alignment drift, but it's fairly quick to fix. You hold the home button and it realigns itself fairly quickly. But at the end of the day, it does pretty well for what it is and what it is meant to do. what I would also like to see, and I know that a lot of people are going to go, but then where would be the incentive to buy a headset? And it's like, well, because you still need the damn... Anyway, tell you what it is. Basically, all I like to see is a way to run the new Type-C connector on the phone and the headset. So the new Oculus Gear VR headsets actually have a Type-C connector on them to provide official support for, say, Oculus PC VR titles. It would enable a boost, I think, in VR uptake in the PC sector and allow more incentive for software to be developed. Because at the moment, that's what I reckon VR is. We're waiting on that system-selling game. We're waiting on the, well, not just a system-selling game. We're waiting on a number of, a couple proper, covering a number of genres, proper VR games. So not experiences, which is what we, for the most part, I'm seeing reviewed a lot, is these, you know, I want to see proper VR titles, proper VR games. So not, you know, where you can sit down and you can be immersed for a couple of hours at a time, or two, you know, hours at a time, and you can be immersed in that world and everything happens. But that isn't going to happen at the current uptake that we have. Like the current penetration isn't there. It's kind of there on the with the PlayStation VR, and then after the PlayStation VR, you have the Gear VRs. The Gear VR, now we know that we can stream PC input or PC stuff to phones. We know we can do that. We do that now. So what is stopping Oculus from doing an official support? Going, hey, you plug your USB connector into the computer, or we have a special adapter that it goes into the HDMI port on your graphics card for your computer, or something along those lines. We have this thing that happened because Type-C is very capable these days. It's a fantastic system. You know, I've already, you know, looking into the stands of it. It's fantastic. But I don't see why we can't have Oculus develop that and go, oh, well, you know, with Samsung, go, hey, Samsung, this is the connector that's going to go into the Gear VR, and it's going to connect PCs that are VR capable, and they can just plug it into a USB port, or then, you know, USB Type 3 port, or, oh no, they plug it into the graphics card, and that. I mean, hell, if they really wanted to, they could. I mean, I don't agree with it, but they could say, hey, NVIDIA, let's work together and make the 1060s and 1070s really work well with interfacing with the phones. But, you know, it would take... I mean, I honestly think that's where they need to go. Yes, keep developing your dedicated systems, dedicated... You know, yes, Valve, do that. You know, do Valve and Oculus and all that. They to develop all that and push that side of things, because at the end of the day, a dedicated system like that is going to be a much better system. But for people like me that have a capable PC that is actually, even though it's 6 years old, is quite capable of driving a VR experience, but don't have the $1,200 Australian to go out and buy, to the $1,200 cash to go and drop on a VR head setup like the Vive, you know, but has the more than capable phone for a head-mounted display, and the Gear VR headset that has all the sensors, which I can tell you right now, the sensors, the tracking in that is fantastic. No lag. Well, very imperceptible lag. I found when I move my head up and down, it tracks bang on, and it's fantastic. I love it. That it's so accurate, and it's because obviously the VR headset itself has actually got sensors and stuff in there as well. It's just, we can push that, and we can then, with the uptake in VR PC side of things, we can see software targeted and developed to drive that, and we can see more high quality indie games. We can see high quality AAA titles coming from the big publishers and developers. We can, you know, I mean, at the moment the preliminary reviews and everything for Ubisoft's Star Trek Bridge Crew, it's already saying this is going to be a system seller, which is fantastic. We need more titles like that. We need more titles like that. We need to see more titles that just get all that praise from your viewers saying, hey, this is a system seller, this is gonna push sales, let's get this done, you know. So, but I've completely gotten off track. Half of it's been taken up with VR talk. But suffice to say, the Gear VR and S8 Plus combo is amazing, absolutely amazing. I'm so impressed with it. I'm so happy that I actually get to experience this now. It's a real joy. But anyway, I've been the Anzac Gamer, also known as Angel885. Thanks for stopping by my pub. Keep that beer on ice, and I'll see you around like a rissole. And no hora.